What is up, everybody? Christian here, and we have our first video of 2020. It's currently the middle of April. We're all stuck at home. There's quarantine going on, but that's okay because we've got some car stuff to do. So this video, as you can tell by the title, we're going to be changing out the front end on my 85Z. So this is the Zenki front end. Say goodbye because after this she's going to have a 1987 Kouki front end. So what I have is I have a replacement bumper, I have some replacement headlight buckets, I have a replacement hood, I have the crash bar to go with the bumper. We are going to be staying with the narrow fenders that are currently on my car, just because it's pretty hard to find some good condition, non-rusty fenders just in general, so nothing's wrong with these ones. I also have a new front lip to go with the Kouki front bumper, which I'm really excited to show you guys once that's all ready to go. But other than that, that should be the gist of it. I know there is going to be some modifying to do to get the headlight buckets in, but the hood should be a direct swap and the bumper should be pretty close to a direct swap, but we'll go over that when we get closer to then. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull the bumper off. It's just a bunch of nuts and bolts everywhere. Same with the headlights. I'll get the hood off, and then I'll probably go ahead and get the new hood on right away, just in case it rains or if I have to leave the car like this overnight. The engine's all protected. So yeah, I'm going to get to that and I'll get back to you guys when I have the new parts ready to go. Alright, so we got the hood on. As you can see, everything lines up. Don't mind kind of the body work. The bumper, the headlights, the hood, they're all going to look like this just because I'm getting them ready for paint. This is just for mock-up and fitting purposes, which you should do before things get painted. But yeah, hood's installed. It's not pushed down right now, but you can see the lines are all pretty even. I still have to kind of play with it a little bit, but everything worked. The hinges bolt onto the hood, no problem. The hood struts here, they work as well. The only thing that's different is these little brackets that bolt to the hood. This one uses 2 bolts, as you can see, whereas the Zenki one uses 1 bolt. So just make sure you also get the little brackets that go with those. Other than that, everything bolts up fine. The latch, the little hook up here matches with the latch perfectly. The only thing I had to do, which some of you may run into, I found that the little hook on the Zenki hood stuck out a bit further. So when I put this one on, it wouldn't latch properly. All I had to do was loosen these 3 bolts, lift the latch up a bit, and now it works fine. So you just may have to play with that a bit. But yeah, with the hood on, we're going to move to the headlights, which is going to be a little bit more intrusive. You're going to be cutting and drilling. Whether you like it or not, it's just going to happen. This is mainly for the 84 and 85 versions. From what I understand, the 86s, they're kind of designed a little bit differently, so you don't have to cut as much. You might not have to cut at all. But yeah, I'm going to go over that with you guys. So this one over here on the passenger side, I already did. So it's already cut, it's already drilled, I already put the headlight in, it fits perfectly. As you can see, I misdrilled it a few times, but it's not a big deal, it's just how it is. This is the section here that I cut. And if we look at this side, this one is not cut. This is what it looked like. So I'm going to show you guys how to do this side. I've learned a few things that I did wrong on that side that I'm going to do better over here. So hopefully when you do yours, it's a cleaner cut, you cut less metal, and you drill properly. So I'm going to quickly put the camera down. I'm going to get this one installed right now, just so you know what it looks like. I'm going to get this one installed here without anything cut, and I'm going to show you why you need a cut, and then we're going to go through it. Okay, so got both headlights installed. So this one over here I'll start with. This one is fully installed. There's just one bolt holding it in, but everything fits the way it should. My tip to you is this outer bracket here with the 2 holes. This you want to use as your reference point for fitting everything. So the bolt holes should line up perfectly. The outline of the actual bracket should line up near perfect with the outline from the old one. And then as well, this line over here for the fender, those are some good starting points for trying to get your headlight lined up. Obviously this one we're going to have to drill a new hole for, but we'll do that later. If we come down here to the front, so this is where we had to cut. So you can kind of see my cut line here. I still have to clean it up, but the reason for that is because this headlight sits lower in the bucket, and it also sits further out. Mainly we're cutting because of the reason for it sitting out. As you can see, it passes the metal cut line. So if we go over here to this one is not in or anything, but it's kind of placed in as best as I can, and obviously this metal here is preventing it from wanting to go down because it's in the up position right now. Also there's 2 studs on the bottom. I'll get to those in a bit once I kind of remove this and get towards the cutting, but just wanted to give you guys a look to see what it's supposed to look like versus what you're working with. So I'm gonna go ahead and take that one out. I'll take this one out, and we'll kind of I'll go through the rundown on what you need to cut and what you need to drill. Alright, so we're ready to start cutting on the driver's side here. If we take a look at the front, hopefully you can see it, but I made a little Sharpie line of where we're gonna cut. So basically when I did that side and I put the headlight in, I noticed I could cut a little bit less. I wasn't exactly sure where I should cut. I kind of just did a rough estimate. So on the other side I cut kind of on the side over here, but I noticed that the headlight didn't really get anywhere near there, so I moved the cut line to the front. Also on the other side I cut a little bit lower, kind of to the bottom of this bend. Now I'm going to cut to the top of the bend because again I noticed the headlight doesn't go that low, and then this side is still the same. So yeah, we're just going to use a angle grinder with a cutting wheel. You can also use a Dremel with a cutting wheel if you want to be a little bit more precise. But yeah, we're going to do that first. I'm going to do the drilling after we get this cut, just because you can't really mark the drill location with this in the way. So yeah, I'll get the camera on a stand and we'll go through the cutting, and let's go. Alright, so as you saw, we just finished up cutting the front end here for the headlight bucket. Down here I just have the piece we cut off. I actually off camera had to trim down this little rad support a little bit more just because it wasn't quite enough. So just keep in mind that when you're cutting yours. The headlight is in now. It's still not fitting perfectly just because we still have to drill the hole for the stud on the bottom, but it definitely gets a lot closer to lining up on the rad support. And so yeah, what we're going to do now is drill a hole for the headlight. I'm going to quickly take this out and just show you guys what we're going to be doing. Alright, so we have the headlight bucket here, and as you can see on the bottom there are 2 studs. Quick tip, this is going to make your life a lot easier because it is going to be a little difficult to line these ones up perfectly. You're going to be drilling probably 2 to 3 holes because it's not going to line up the first time. You're probably going to be slotting the holes and it's just going to be a nightmare. So my tip to you is the inside stud, the one that's closer to the middle of the car, cut this one off. It's going to just get in the way. It doesn't quite reach through the sheet metal on the bottom of the headlight bucket. That's why you may have seen on some of the write-ups you have to bang in the bottom of the tub there for it to kind of bolt up, but there's more than enough support and bolts holding this in that you can just delete this. It will make your life a lot easier, and this one will be, you really only need to drill one hole now. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to cut this one off. Once that one's off, we're going to be marking the second stud, and I'm just going to be using a tire crayon. You can use a marker, you can use paint, you can use grease, silicone, whatever you want. That's just going to give us a kind of somewhat accurate area to drill in the headlight bucket. And then yeah, so I'm going to cut this one off and then we'll start drilling. Alright, so that is the hole that I made. It's not perfect. Again, it didn't really fit quite right, so I had to slot it in a bunch of different directions, but I think I have it pretty close now. I'm just going to get the headlight bucket here and show you. So we're just going to fit it in place, get that stud lined up, kind of like that, and then grab one of the bolts. There we are. You're going to have a bit of adjustability, but I'll keep it right there for now. And that's mostly finished installed. Obviously we still have to put some more bolts on and some nuts, but that's the position. You can see over here it's pretty equal. If I open it, you can see so the edge of here was hitting the fender. You have to kind of play with it a bit until you get it to an area where it just fits underneath, which it's doing now. It's not touching. I also had to trim a little bit more metal down here, so I wasn't quite right with the measurement being higher. It does have to go a little lower, but now it fits fine. And if we close the hood, you can see that's our fitment there. So the lines, the gaps aren't perfect. Again, I still have to adjust the hood a bit. The lights can be adjusted. This one's not bad. Again, a little bit of a big gap on top, but the sides are good. If you step back, that's what the car looks like so far. Not bad. So a few more things to button up, and then we can move on to the hood, or sorry, the bumper. Alright, so got a little carried away and got a few things done off camera. As you can see, we have the front crash bar currently installed. Painted it black just to help with the rust. The headlights, I got the motors in on both sides. I had to take those out to get the old buckets out just because there was a bolt hiding behind them, but not on these ones, so those are in. In terms of the actual light mounting, I found some nuts to go on the studs on the bottom, so those are tight. These upper bolts are tight. Obviously we still need to do something about this mounting point. I'm gonna keep that off for now, and then we'll come back to that a little bit later. But these things are mounted pretty solidly now, just with the hardware that's already on. And now we're gonna move on to the front bumper cover. So I forgot about this earlier, and I probably should have done this before putting the headlights in, but we do have to trim a little bit of this little front bar here just to fit the it's not the front bumper cover, but there's a little metal support behind it, and it just requires us to cut about 1/4 inch off of the front here. So I'm going to do that very carefully. I don't want to take the headlights out just because I spent so much time kind of adjusting them. So I have a little Dremel with a cutoff wheel. I'm going to go ahead and cut both of these off here, and then with that done we should be able to get some of those support brackets on, and we'll go from there. Alright, and this is what the finished product should look like, or something very similar. So you don't have to cut down all the way here. I kind of only went up there, and then you just make a cut going in, and it kind of takes out a little chunk just like this. I did that on both sides, as you can see. When I was filming it, I didn't quite cut off enough, so I had to go back and trim down a couple more mil, and I also had to cut lower as well. But now everything works fine, so I'm just going to put the camera on a stand now and show you how these bumper supports, these brackets, mount up. And there we go. So now I have the two brackets mounted up. They're just hand tight right now. But as you can see, the lower bracket, which is this one here, this is the secondary latch, that goes on first, and it kind of bolts here and off to the side. And then this bumper support, I guess you can call it, goes on afterwards, and it just connects up here, and then there's another one down there. I just need to grab some more bolts. But that's pretty much the brackets for the front bumper. Up here you can see this little bar here is where the front of the bumper cover will actually bolt to. Speaking of which, we're probably ready to grab that bumper actually. I'm going to do that real quick. And also, side note, if you haven't noticed, I do have my intercooler removed. That's just because the design of the Kouki front bumper is a little bit slimmer, so I'm just waiting on some parts to be able to kind of make a more streamlined design for the intercooler piping. But for this video, I'm just going to go ahead and get the bumper kind of mounted, and then we'll figure that out later. So like I said, I'm going to grab that bumper cover, and then we'll get started on getting it on the front. Alright, so just finished up getting the lip installed. As you saw, we also got the front bumper installed. Both of them went pretty smooth. The lip obviously took a little bit of finessing. I will get into that in just a minute. As for up here, as you probably realized, I did not really get to fastening these inner brackets on the headlights. I was originally going to use a riv nut, but my riv nut tool is just not big enough. It can't do bolts that size. So I'm just going to leave it like this for now and see how it goes. I may end up getting a bigger riv nut tool and doing them eventually. This one just has a piece of metal behind it to kind of lift the light up because it just wasn't quite aligned properly. I'll clean that up again eventually. But those are our headlights. That's our bumper. If I close the hood here, I did spend quite a bit of time adjusting the lines again, so everything fits much better than it did last time you saw. Going back down here to the lip, so it was pretty good fitment. Everything on the front end was very symmetrical. Around the edges here on both sides were very good. A lot of time was just over here on the fender ends, just because these are made for the wide fenders and these are narrow fenders. It's not quite a perfect fit, but I did manage to get them pretty flush. If we go over to this side, same thing, pretty close, but not quite. I'm probably going to end up making something to just cover this area to make it look a little bit nicer. But other than that, everything else went pretty good. Obviously I have a few other things to do, just fog lights, turn signals, a couple other things in the front here, emblem, but all that's going to be done once everything is finally painted, and I will be doing a kind of a reveal video on that. Probably going to take some time. I do have to get them painted professionally. Everything's going to get put back on and adjusted, but once that's all done, I definitely will be releasing another video. But that's about it for today. Hopefully you learned something on Kouki swapping the front end of your Zenki, and if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments. I'll try to get back to you. But that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.